seated to hear this case. And guess what? A friend of this program was inside of the courtroom watching it all. I want to welcome him on now for some discussion. The creator and the host of Road Patrol Live, nationally known radio host John DePetro is with us outside of the courthouse. And also this morning, so pleased to have on the show criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Matthew Timpanik, someone who's been giving us legal analysis throughout the progression of this case. Welcome to you both. John, let me begin with you. Tell us, what was it like inside of that courtroom yesterday?
You know, Julie, because of the gag order that's in place, people should, to me, the defense it's all about imaging. And what you see now with Victoria George is she's leading with Karen walking in. And then when they came out, Alan Jackson and David and Eddie, they even went a different way. So it's all a female angle. When she stood up, you'd almost think that she was going to say she's actually Karen's bestie. Now, as they were at sidebar with Judge Cannoni and Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, also Adam Lally, and they're questioning the prospective jurors, at one point Karen Reed was up next to them. For the most part, she was at the defense table. And Victoria George, Julie, it's almost as if she's always next to Karen Reed. Now, the way I interpret that, court sources that I've spoken to, in the first trial last spring, a number of people, females, as you can imagine, but specifically Victoria George, they had a hard time and they couldn't get past some of the language of Trooper Michael Proctor. I think this is an indication that they're really going to try to go with a female angle. It's almost like the girl squad. It's not Karen and her high-priced male attorneys. This time, the visual, since there's a gag order, the visual is of Karen Reed, and then she's surrounded by two female attorneys. But it's very serious. The Commonwealth deserves a lot of credit. Ran very smoothly yesterday. But it's also remarkable, Julian, it can't be lost. You know, when they're saying to people, and Judge Cannoni is saying this trial could be 6 to 8 weeks of your life, there's a lot of people, they don't want to be part of that. That's a huge commitment, whether it's childcare or work or hardship, whatever it may be. And when many of them were told you are dismissed from this jury, you know, it's a good thing you're not standing near the exit or you get bowled over. But make no mistake about it, this whole trial, this retrial has a different feel. Hank Brennan, very much in command yesterday. I found he had the loudest voice anytime that they were speaking. But I think the defense is looking for a different angle, and they're looking to maybe even soften up Karen Reed a little bit and surround her with some more of the female attorneys.
That's probably really smart. John, that's such sharp analysis. I really wasn't seeing it that way, so thank you for that great insight all around. Matt Timpanik, let me ask you about the practical, technical side of this. Adding this woman who has no experience in the world of criminal law. Her experience comes from sitting as a juror. An easier way to do it, perhaps, if she wants to be a friend to the defense team, they could certainly call her every day, ask her questions, put her in more of a consulting role. But, Matt, as you know, they put her on the legal team. Why do you think that is?
I definitely think because this is an individual who sat through the first trial. They heard every piece of evidence so she can analyze in real time what she was thinking, how this witness played, how this witness was helpful, how they were hurtful, how Trooper Michael Proctor's testimony played with her specifically, how the accident reconstruction is. So they can find places where it's like this person heard it from an attorney standpoint, from a juror standpoint, and they know where to focus on in the second trial.
That's really smart. And so, okay, so she can kind of look at everything through the lens of a juror, since that's really her frame of reference. That's her best experience here that she can offer to this case. John, let me go back to you, please, with the difference is outside of the courthouse. We've got a larger buffer zone, that shot that we're used to seeing from the opposite vantage point of where you're standing right now, close to the building. We're used to seeing lots of people and lots of action. Different this time. Would you kind of describe how it feels outside of the zone where you're present this morning?
Night and day. I mean, the power of prayer, Julie. This is anyone that's attended has been praying for this. Now, coming up, you're going to cover, I saw Kevin Reddington yesterday in the hallway. There's other important trials that are going on. The fact that they have moved them and created more in a much more strict buffer zone. The court they're conducting important trials. They're doing business. It's just far more of business as usual. The people that were gathered outside, I mean, I'll just tell you, it was it was difficult. You know, they follow you to your car, they film you to the car. From the moment I would arrive to the moment I'd leave, you're being followed by people. They're yelling obscenities. They're putting trash on your car. This time, they are way down, out of sight. I think it just creates a more serious atmosphere. You also don't have the big walk-up. If Karen Reed, she'd go through the gauntlet and she's high-fiving people as she's going into the courthouse. So far, that has been eliminated. But you can't deny, and this was an issue last time. Inside the courtroom, we could hear the people outside. If you came out, it was very intimidating when you'd see these throngs of people, and they are crude. They're more like fans at a football game. They're vile. They're yelling obscenities. They're honking horns. They're waving signs. It would be very intimidating. I find the buffer zone so far, Massachusetts State Police, Julie, they deserve a lot of credit. This is go time. The Commonwealth is ready. They told me yesterday they learned a lot from that first trial. This time around, it's far more conducive for a serious trial. It's not so much of a circus.
Right. John, my friend, you and Matt, you both know this. You know your voice holds power when people try to silence you. And I'm not sure why there can't just be support for Karen Reed and why there has to also be a tax for anyone who wants to cite the evidence, cite the facts that substantiate the Commonwealth's position of her hitting her boyfriend with her car while she was driving drunk. Matt Timpanic, let me ask you, some of her supporters are saying this buffer zone is unconstitutional and they are angry about it. And they want to be able to yell things at the people who are coming in. Is there a constitutionality problem?
I don't think there is, because I think what you have is a tight time, place, and manner situation. It's like, all right, we've already seen what's happened in the first trial, that the O'Keefe family and many of the victims and the victim in this case, his family, and the witnesses were subject to harassment. It's like, that's not what trials are about. That's not what they should be about. You can exercise your First Amendment rights while not abusing the alleged victim's family. So this buffer zone is supposed to protect them and to protect those who want to exercise their constitutional First Amendment rights.
You're exactly right, my friend. You know, there have been people, I know you and John are both aware of this, Matt. There have been people, one of them we've seen, blasting it all over social media, Turtle Boy with a megaphone at the last trial, talking about wanting to taint the jury, specifically wanting to poison the pool of people. And so, Matt, doesn't Judge Cannoni have a really difficult job in protecting this thing from becoming more of a circus than it already is?
I think it's going to be interesting this time around because, remember, Aiden Kearney is listed as a witness in the Commonwealth's case. So he's going to be under the same rule of sequestration as all the other witnesses. So if he's kind of sidelined or kind of taken out of the equation, I don't know if you're going to see that same kind of rah-rah circus the first time and just more and more people just, I don't know if he's not there, if they're going to have that same kind of vibrancy when yelling obscenities and harassing victims, allegedly harassing the victim's family.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. It's deplorable. It's deplorable what's gone on. And those charges, very, very serious that he's facing. I don't think it's talked about enough. I think everyone should go read that indictment against him. John, you've read it. Matt, you've read it as well. But John, back to you on this point. These witnesses in the first trial, these innocent people who just happened to be out enjoying the night with a friend, John O'Keefe, have been relentlessly attacked, viciously bullied, their lives turned upside down. And we know Hank Brennan, John, he still has yet to file that motion, right? He gave the indications that he's going to be looking to introduce the messages between Turtle Boy and Karen Reed as consciousness of her guilt to show that why employ him to harass people allegedly if you did nothing wrong. John, remind me, it seemed like the other day they were still in the process of getting those messages to Hank Brennan, right? That's why we haven't seen the motion. Am I correct on that?
You are correct, Julie. And, something that shouldn't be missed here is Karen Reed, the accusation, she was leaking grand jury testimony. I know some people would say, well, what's the big deal? She was giving the names of witnesses and their addresses and where they live and their license plates. That's something that's public knowledge. Well, not if it's in a secret grand jury where suddenly the witness would know in public. That is not something that is often seen. And I come back to what was the motivation for Karen Reed to do that? And I think Hank Brennan is going in the right direction with that, with the conscience of guilt. Why was Karen Reed, why was she making it known that the witnesses were Brian Albert and Jen McCabe and all these people? These were secret grand jury, proceedings. It's possible the motivation was she wanted them targeted. She wanted them harassed. Remember, there was no guarantee that this was going to go to trial. They kept insisting this thing would never go to trial. And it did seem to be an attempt to try to put pressure on these witnesses to then get the Commonwealth to just, back down and not take her to trial. But I believe this all stems from Karen Reed. And Julie, as Hank Brennan pointed out in that Body of Snow docuseries, she is seen laughing and has no sympathy towards the witnesses. And at any moment, she could say the O'Keeffes are off limits. She's never done that.
Right. You're right. Excellent points, John. She laughed about the witness intimidation, and she's never visited John's grave. What does that say? And I love your point about the motivation. I think you're so right. As we end this discussion for now, think about the motivation. I encourage everyone watching this case, think about the motivation of the people launching these attacks. Why might they want to do that? Is anybody being paid? Does anybody have an interest in promoting a lie? Motivation is always something I think we should question. John DePetro, Matt Timpanik, thank you for the great discussion. My friends at home, be sure to follow both of them as this trial is set to kick off very soon once we get that